Welcome again to another 2022 video. My name is David Siddons and I'm the proud president of the David Siddons Group.
I'm Elaine Tatum, the territory sales expert with the David Siddons Group in Fort Lauderdale. And
this is a much deserved video where we're going to look at very closely both Miami and Fort Lauderdale, the pre-construction condo market, and what's in store for the next 5 years.
So if you're looking for something new, pre-construction in the condo market, stay tuned. We're going to get into this.
So Elaine, I've got my notes in front of me. We've been chatting back and forth. You are the expert in Fort Lauderdale. I'm the expert in Miami. We've done this so many times I lose track. But we're going to get into our respective pre-construction condo markets because what's going on right now is unique. It's a unique moment in time. We're experiencing a level of product that we've never seen before, and both markets are absolutely booming. But both markets are under a lot of pressure as we look to buyers who are very much drawn to a shrinking inventory. So let's start with your market and we'll bounce back and forth. Tell me, what have you got? What is in the Fort Lauderdale pre-construction condo market right now?
So the Fort Lauderdale market currently has 6 new projects underway. They're all in different locations, so they each have different personalities, but we have another name brand product coming, which is the Ritz-Carlton Pompano Beach, so everyone's very excited about that. We have another product coming that's called the Olakino House. It's very new on the horizon, and it's in that new concept of wellness building.
So these are buildings that I'm less familiar with, but obviously you are very much in your day-to-day conversation. And I know you're also used to dealing with the ones that came slightly before that, the Auberge, the Four Seasons, the buildings that currently exist in the market, which interestingly right now, are really getting sold out and have been sold out. The same of what I'm experiencing down in Miami, which for those who don't know, and I'm gonna just rattle off those buildings that I'm dealing with down here. Our job is to know all of these buildings and know the optics of all of these in a grand scale. And I think one of the first things that's important to say is that we've been doing this for, how many years have you been selling real estate
16
for?
now.
16 years, and I've been selling it for nearly 15. We have lived and breathed this every day since 2006. And we've seen the rise and fall of buildings. We've seen the rise and fall of neighborhoods, and we've seen the emerging and changing cycles of what we're now experiencing today. So when you want the numbers, you give us a call. We will give you not just the building, but we'll give you the wider market. Because again, let's flash up our software, Condo Geeks, which gives us that analytics. Now, I think we've set the stage to move forward into our next part, which is...
Just to say that it was really the comparison between Fort Lauderdale with our 6 new pre-construction buildings, which also included Pompano Beach, moving from that discussion to David's very big, so many projects going on in the Miami Beach area. There's a lot going on in South Florida.
Yeah,
with so many new people moving down here. The new product that's coming on is needed though. We're running out of our resale product.
Yeah, I think that's important to say, and it kind of it'll bring us down into part of the conversation later, but I think while you brought it up, it's very important and very relevant to say that the new product right now that's coming into this market, both cities, is very luxury. It's very high end, but it's very much in demand because all the luxury product that we've had up to this point and in the last 2 years it's just been absorbed so quickly, so aggressively, that now if you're looking pre-construction, it's always considered a deal because you're getting in at early price points. So there's definitely upside. So when the building is built and let's say you wanted to sell it, you're going to sell at a margin. Right now, the stuff that is available, the resale product that's available, is coming at a pretty hefty premium. On Friday, we just had a sale, which we listed a property in the building Elysee, and it retraded for $300,000 above our asking price because there wasn't anything else available. So the appetite is absolutely and fundamentally there. So let's get into it and identify the product specifically.
Okay.
And I know this could go on for hours, by the way, but let's get into the product that you are most focused on, that you find very interesting.
Okay. So one of the buildings that I'm really liking right now is Celine, due to the location. It's got a fabulous location, beachfront. It's a Coulter development. So Coulter is a very well-known developer throughout the area. So I'm sure it's going to be a very substantially upgraded product. It's 2 towers. The lines that I'm really liking are the sea glass and the Tiffany in these 2 buildings because of the expansiveness and the views that you're going to get, both beachfront and intracoastal. So it's exciting to be able to span the whole island and see both sides of it.
And these are through flow units. These are
the
east to
Tiffany
west.
is a flow-through unit. The sea glass is not, but because of where it is located on the building, it's on the east side building, you're going to get very wide views of the ocean up and down, north and south from your terraces.
Yeah. And I know when you get into the floor plans, typically what we tend to get is the most expensive lines in the building are going to be the southeast corner. They are, at least in Miami, and we've said this a million times. So I think it's important to recognize that the southeast corners are ones that often people are drawn to, and I know in my experience in Miami, when we look at the buildings, those have been the most expensive lines, the most desirable
There's a
lines.
reason for that, and I explain it to the clients that are buying with us. The southeastern corner of the building captures the most light throughout the day.
Yeah.
So if you're moving to South Florida and you want to have as much sun as you possibly can get, the southeastern exposure is the way to go.
It is. Now, the reality is it's also typically the most expensive, and that doesn't always work for everyone's budget. So when we get into the lines, we have to look at the buildings around, and sometimes you don't want to be on the corners because the middle stacks provide more privacy. The end stacks can often have buildings to the north and the south of you, which can be less attractive ultimately. But I think it is a line-by-line analysis, and when we look at the floor plans, and we both look at these very closely, that's what you have to be aware of. Now, talking about floor plans and talking about these buildings, we discussed some of the elements at play that are really important going into buying this pre-construction product. And I'm going to talk generally here with you, because I think that this is why people hire us. They hire us because we have these wide optics and we have information on these developers and what they build and how they build that is very relevant in your decision-making process. So, like architectural floor plans, for example, what are the things that you notice and you've noticed in the architectural plans, the buildings that you're dealing with, and what will you tell your clients to be aware of when they're buying them and looking at the floor plans?
A lot of what I'm noticing in the buildings are the den aspects. So it'll be a 2+ den or a 3+ den instead of a true 3-bedroom or a 4-bedroom. Now the developer is going to try to tell you that a 2+ den could be converted into a 3-bedroom. In some cases, that is not the case because that den is just an extra bump out of space. And if you don't really analyze the floor plan, you could be stuck with unusable space or where they've poached or added, let's say, a 3-bedroom into what should have really and truly been just a 2-bedroom. So it messes with the flow of the unit. I also like to look at bathroom sizes. How big is the scale of the shower in a bathroom? I think we had a building in Fort Lauderdale and I love the building, but in one of the bathrooms, it was just the scale of the shower stall was just really too small. It didn't give you enough elbow room. So these are just details that I like to look at.
The functionality is incredibly present and important because we've both seen it. There are floor plans that I've seen a lot of where, remember, when you have a building and people live around all year round, it's a primary residence, you've got to be very conscious that in order to be primary for people to live all year round and it to draw that kind of client, which makes for a building far more robust, far more economically stable, it has to function with a good sized closet, proper sized bathroom, good sized space. Otherwise, it works as a pied-à-terre because you're living out of your suitcase or you don't really kind of care about some of the things that you're dealing with. But when you live all year round, it has to function as such. And when you bastardize a floor plan, to be honest with you, and you take a 3-bedroom into a 2-bedroom, it's like trying to combine a sports car with an SUV. It's neither one nor the other, and it works, and it's a jack of all trades and a master of none. You end up with unusable space throughout. So you've just killed your entire floor plan. Don't get fooled by the advert as it's a 3-bedroom or a 4-bedroom. Factor in the square footage. Factor in the space within these areas that we know and understand.
And take a look at how you're going to live in this space. If you've got a bedroom bumped right up next to your master bedroom, is that an ideal situation? Or is it better for you to have a split plan where the master is off by itself, maybe capturing the beautiful views, and you have the second and the third bedrooms on a split across the unit from you? I just think for livability, that makes a lot more sense for people.
Yeah, and you can get compromises with that's a good point, a really good point. You can get compromises with the bedrooms and where they're positioned. I've seen it with a number of buildings in Miami where I've noticed that the floor plan is just awful, and you end up with a lot of dead corridor space, and it gets dark, and the master bedroom's at the front, and it's great, and the views are wonderful, and they show you that, but the bedrooms at the back are looking into a building behind you, and they're dark and really unfunctional, and they just don't work well. You can't live in your corridors, so lots of corridor space, and you end up with small closets and silly dens that don't work. So be careful of that, and be careful of the square footage, the correct square footage.
Right, I think that's important, because when the tax roll will have something completely different than what the developer is going to give you. The tax records actually will show smaller square footage, so it actually bumps up the value price per square foot, where the developer will pad in the square footage.
The developers will measure with a marketing floor plan from middle of the wall to middle of the wall, and then they'll include some of the other areas such as AC closets and another hallway space that you won't get when the city comes to measure. So there's usually around a 15% discretionary number between the marketing floor plan and square footage,
and the livable space.
And the livable architectural floor plan. Now, when you actually buy and they give you the condo docs, they'll give you the architectural floor plan with the actual measurements. They have to by law. So that's what you want to start pay attention to. But when you get into the comparisons, and we're running the analysis and we're looking at the buildings that already exist. So someone says, well, it's right now 1,500 a square foot in the market, but I can buy this at 1,000 a square foot. Make sure that the numbers that you're comparing it to, and we'll help you with this, are apples to apples, not marketing square footage to actual city recorded square footage. Just a caveat of warning there. Moving forward. Now that's just one thing, the architectural plans. Then there's the finishes.
So we'll have a lot of developers as you go in to see these new pre-construction, and they'll slip in a word such as decorator ready or designer ready. So David and I know what that means, and we can ask more specifically, what does that really mean? Are the floors included? Are the bathrooms included? Is the kitchen included? So I just mentioned earlier that I'm loving Celine. I think that there's fabulous floor plans. It's got a great beachfront location. But when you go in there and you're purchasing those units, they're coming unfinished, completely unfinished. Yeah. So you're having to add on top of what is appearing to be less than $1,000 a square foot. You're having to add in all the finishes, your kitchens, your bathrooms. Now the developer will sell you an additional package to finish it all for you, but that's another bump in your price. Yeah. So make sure you're working with agents that understand this and can help direct you.
When you get into the renderings that you're going to look at with all of these buildings, and of course the renderings are going to be gorgeous, they always are. They're dressed up and designed, and when you look at them closely, you'll realize that the ceiling, much actually like the ceiling we have today, it's going to look like it's a softed ceiling, that there's cove lighting, that there's extra lighting involved. That adds a massive premium. That's actually one of the most expensive things that you can do when you actually build out a unit. And my wife's company, Design Solutions, which we're going to flash up on the screen, they specialize in the build out of high level units throughout Miami and Fort Lauderdale. And they've taken developer units, and the transformation is night and day. It's completely different. It's like buying a base model of a car or a fully tricked out top of the line version of it. It can look completely and totally different. Now, when you build out those units, the developers will spend a lot of time talking about the kitchens and the bathrooms, or they'll say, well, we're using Waterworks, or we're using Gagano appliances, or we're using Snidero cabinetry. That is one piece of the equation, but it's not the whole pie. There's lots and lots of other elements at play when you get into the finishes, such as the lighting, such as is the wiring for example, behind us I have a cove effect for our curtains. Do you have low voltage running to that? Is there a cove placement for you to put in your
electric blinds?
Yeah.
Is there a power source right there? Where yes.
And how much low voltage outlets are you getting throughout? Because if you buy 2 units and combine them, make sure you get the right amount of low voltage running through the unit in total. There are, in short, so many fine points that will make an enormous difference in the end, and you might not be paying attention to them. The brand of the doors and the windows that are being used. It's not just the kitchen or the flooring choice.
A lot of buyers ask you about the ceiling heights when they're in? And so some developers, it's 10 feet throughout there. Well, it's 10 feet, but that's without adding any of the recessed lighting. So once you add in the drop ceiling to add your recessed lighting for your LEDs throughout the home and in the main living areas, you've encroached. So you're really only going to end up with like 9 foot 4 inch or 9 foot 6 inch ceiling heights. So that's important to know, especially if you're a tall person and you want to have a tall unit. Is it a true 10 foot with the lighting already installed?
Or is it slab to slab 10 foot, which is how they normally play it. And that brings us to some of the other floorings that you'll get within buildings, and I've seen it in Mr. C and Coconut Grove and a number of other buildings. There are certain floors, often sometimes the amenity floors or the lower penthouses and some of the higher floors, and sometimes they're just random floors, it seems, where you get an extra foot. And that extra foot that you get, those are what we want our clients to go after. We'll always chase down those unique lines, those better floor plans, those extra height of the ceiling to get you the right product. And that brings me round to my next point, which is the brand name, the name on the building. So let's fire out the brand names, because down in Miami, we've got the St. Regis, we've got the Ritz-Carlton, obviously, that we're dealing with up in
You're
Pompano
killing me
as well.
today, David. We've got the Ritz-Carlton Pompano Beach down in Fort Lauderdale. We also have the Four Seasons coming online, delivering momentarily, closing starting next week. We also have, so I would say those are my top 2 brand names.
And there's nothing wrong with a building that isn't a brand name, as long as they're not slapping on a huge premium for a brand which doesn't really have any real association to do with the actual hospitality or condo product that it's selling. We've seen a number of buildings in the past, brand names, automobile brand names, that didn't really deliver what we expected them to. And that's not to say that's always going to be the case. And we've got new buildings right now coming into Miami, which are brand names. We have the Aston Martin, and we've got the Bentley building. That's another one I failed to mention, but I'm going to mention now, that are coming online. The fundamentals of the floor plans, looking at the floor plans, looking at the functionality of the building, and looking at the functionality of the building relative to all the other buildings in the market.
So there's another point I would like to make when you're buying into a brand building. So let's take the Four Seasons, for instance. It's coming online, but it has a hotel component. It's not strictly residential. What does that mean to the buyer? Well, if you're a buyer now in the Four Seasons, which I mentioned is closing within a week, and you're expecting to walk into a beautiful grand lobby, to have that feeling of, I've just arrived at a Four Seasons, that's not going to be the case for the residents. They have a smaller, separate residential lobby that is much more downscaled, much smaller. So you don't get that full effect when you're walking in as a resident. It's like, how do you balance that?
Yeah, and at the same time, you don't want to walk into their hotel lobby because the residents want to feel like they're coming home and the concierge knows them. They don't want to feel like they're walking into a hotel, and justifiably so. And there's nothing wrong, and the good condo hotels that do it correctly do separate their lobbies. Of course they do, for obvious reasons.
Exactly.
But at the same time, you've got to respect the fact that you're expecting a certain level. And the Ritz, for example, as some of these other buildings are doing now, it's a hospitality hotel brand, but there's no hotel component.
The Ritz-Carlton Pompano Beach has no hotel component. So it's going to be strictly residential. Everything is for the use of the owners. Plus, it has an incredible location. It is split intercoastal, so you'll have a marina and be on the waterfront, and they have 14 slips, and then they have an oceanfront location as well.
Yeah, there's 2 towers in that project.
Right across the street, and you can go back and forth to enjoy all of the amenities in both towers.
We know this product extremely well. We both sold a number of units. I think between us about 7 units now.
We're getting up there.
And we parry into both. Now, of course, they're also getting very quickly reserved. I think they're about 60% reserved. Contracts are being converted in around March time. So if this is a product which we both believe is a very good product, give us a call on that quickly, because there is a timeliness to this. I mean, the truth of the matter is that Miami is the recipient of huge amounts of relocations from all over the country. And our housing market has exploded. Our resale market is drying up very, very quickly. And people want to get value, and that value seems most present in the pre-construction market. So
just to mention, there's a couple of scenarios that have happened in the Fort Lauderdale area that I thought were extremely interesting, because I'd never heard of this before. So Celine, a building that I like, launched their sales efforts. I really thought that they would come out and be fully reserved by June or July. So I've gone back to revisit the project to do subsequent videos. Yep. They paused the reservation process on their sales team for 4 months because the reservations were coming in at such a high velocity. They wanted to make sure they got those under contract first. So now back up now, or fast forward, they're now 60% now solidly under contract, and that has probably more since the last time I spoke to them, but they're now going direct to contract. The other scenario was I just did a buyer presentation at Casamar, it just launched. The day we did the buyer presentation and I received the call, it was the day that they launched. And I have very good, and as David does, rapport with all of we're calling them our sales partners with all of these buildings. So I was notified as soon as they were getting their sales package. We got this buyer in. We were surprised because they're going direct to contract. There's no reservation. And this is based on the fact that their sister project, Solimar, is almost completely sold out with only 1 remaining unit, a penthouse unit. And they've just recently broken ground only 4 or 5 months ago. So with that kind of sales velocity, the developer, who's the Related Group, the largest in South Florida, they decided, let's just go straight to contract with Casamar.
So before we get into the nitty-gritty of how we help clients buy and the relevance of what we do, we're going to get into some of the price points, because I think it's important. The reason they use us, or our clients use us and have done over the last 15 years, is because we have those wide optic understanding, those numbers that you need to make the decision to make sure that you're not overpaying and you can appreciate the values and where they can go, which we'll come into at the end. Take us through the numbers in the Fort Lauderdale market.
So Celine was trading at, I would say, around $900 a square foot. But Celine, remember, you have to take into consideration whether you're going to have the finishes put in and buy the builder package, or if you're going to proceed and do your own finishes once the product is completed and delivered. The Terraces is more of a central beach boutique building, and that's launched at about $800 a square foot. They're already into the tier 2 pricing, which is bumped up a little bit to $850 a square foot. The Ritz-Carlton, Pompano Beach, around $1,100 a square foot.
Yeah, starting point.
I think that's an amazing value for.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons we've had a lot of success of selling that project particularly, and we keep coming back to that one, is that it's on the beach and beachfront, and a lot of our buyers, I think understandably, who will watch this, are what we call non-discretionary buyers, or discretionary is not the right word. They are really non-discriminatory is the word I was looking for. They are not predisposed to buy one neighborhood or another. They just want to be in South Florida and have a nice place on the beach that they can bring their families to. So we've got product at $900, $800, $1,100 a square foot.
For Fort Lauderdale, $1,900 a square foot was the Four Seasons, and that was the most expensive pre-construction, new construction to ever come through Fort Lauderdale.
So you have a pretty broad range through that market, but pre-construction wise, it's definitely below a lot of the resale product that we have, that we deal with out there. And there's nothing wrong with that resale product, it's just sometimes getting hold of it. So buildings like the Auberge and the Paramount and other buildings.
Had a $2,400 square foot sale very recently. So
wow,
that's really shot up
that's
there.
Crazy. But the general is probably around 1,500, 1,600.
Right.
Which is still much below. And when
actually,
I get in,
less than that. Oh,
really?
theirs is around $1,300 a square.
Okay, so still more than some of the resale stuff, which gives credence to why you should buy some of the pre-sale construction product. Same thing in Miami. If I go into Miami and I look at, say, for example, in Coconut Grove, and I'm looking at Mr. C's, which is around 1,300 a square foot and upwards, but then I've got resale product in Park Grove or Grosvenor House or Grove at Grand Bay, and there we're looking at prime lines that can be $2,500 a square foot, even $3,000 a square foot, but certainly $2,000 is very achievable. And then obviously once you go into other neighborhoods, if I go through the Brickell and downtown corridor, the urban core, all the way through Edgewater, buildings like Missoni Bahia sold out, buildings like Elysee sold out. Now obviously you're going down into the pre-construction product of what's remaining, and it's, relatively speaking, it's not bad value at all. But you obviously got to get case by case, line by line. And then on the beach, you know, Five Park, for example, which I look at now, and I look at value there, where you can get in at somewhere between $1,600 and $2,000 a square foot. If I compare that to, say, Continuum, which is, you've got trades at $3,000 a square foot, or Apogee, which are even more, or as we go up the beach, 87 Park, which we just put a unit into contract and we sold a unit over $4,000 a square foot.
Well, this is where Fort Lauderdale starts to shine. When we start comparing price per square foot valuations. I don't have as much product as you do down in the Miami corridor, but price per square foot, our valuations are much lower compared to the product that you're able to sell down there.
But no matter what you want, whether it's down in Miami or into Fort Lauderdale or even further afield and further up, we have those optics, and our software allows us to give you the information that you need. No blind faith required. You do not need to take my word or Elaine's word for it. Anything that we tell you, we will show you how our methodologies work, how our analytics work, so you can understand very specifically at a very granular level, because our software isn't generalized at all. It can be hyper-focused. Why that line in that building at that price point makes the most sense. And then obviously moving forward, you know, where things are going to go as we forecast forward into the next, let's say, year, 2 years, what can happen, what's likely to happen. And that's born more of our observation of human behavior, the demographic profiling and who we're talking to and who we're working with and what they need.
So right now we're working into 2024, 2025 deliveries. And so what else is coming online? So everything I've presented today is what is coming in the next few months. Beyond that, it's just waiting for those announcements and being on top of it and learning about that product as soon as the plans come out.
The difference is this time round, unlike other economic cycles, we are seeing a lot more primary buys. People are looking to make this their first home.
Their home.
Their, you know, tax exemption, 6 months or more, property that they live in. And so the needs and wants of what they have and how they live and the size of the living rooms and the size of the closets and the size of the shower stalls and all these things that come together with this whole analysis that we've just talked about, all come down to the key understanding of, should I buy now or should I wait? And if I wait, what are the consequences of waiting? And this comes into something sort of we interestingly talked about in how we handle that situation where you fall in love with a building and you say, you know what? I loved the 03 line at the Ritz, or I loved the corner line 0102 at the Mr. C in Coconut Grove, but unfortunately, they're all gone. How do we handle that? What are you doing to help your clients right now get through that obstacle?
What I recommend is for the buyers to buy maybe into their second choice line and then to wait it out. Because what sometimes happens is buyers back out. And so the developer has the line, an option in the preferred line that the buyer wants originally, and they're able to make a switch, get out of the lesser desirable line and flip into the preferred line and still be making money. Yeah. So it's a good play. They have to wait a little while, and sometimes they have to wait actually until things go to contract, because right after the closings begin, you always have a flurry of resales. And typically, you've got those people that want to sell in their preferred line and they can jump on it right.
And the developer's also much more forgiving to allow a person who's bought into the building when a line does come up available, and sometimes people don't close or they do want to upgrade to an even bigger unit, and then the existing people who have already got a reservation can step up and move in. We've done that a lot. We've done that in Park Grove, in Tower 2, into Tower 1. I've seen that in other buildings as well. And then the other thing is it's almost an insurance policy as well. When you think about how the building evolves and appreciates, and if you buy into a unit where the building and the unit value goes up, when you need to upgrade, the sticker shock isn't so great, or the difference isn't so huge if you're already buying into the building. And again, when you get the dialogue with us that we're having with our clients that's different, it's like, why would I speak to David Siddons Group? Why not just go to the developer? We have the software tools and we have the market knowledge and we know the numbers. Then we have such a relationship with these developers that A, it doesn't cost the buyer any more money by using us, and more importantly, B, they get clear optics of the market so they're able to make a good decision. When you go into the developer, they will give you a very narrow view of the building and the market. They won't talk about the other buildings. They won't talk about their numbers. They can't talk about their numbers.
Well, that's a good point, because you have people that were searching for pre-construction. They don't know about all of the projects in the pipeline and what's coming. So for the buyer that contacted us and wanted to know about Casamar, they didn't really know about that until it was mentioned to them, because it's not really out there. And if you're searching pre-construction, not everything will come up.
Yeah, we're lucky that we hear that.
You have to contact a knowledgeable agent in order to know what your options are.
The other thing that helps, and this is, thank goodness it does exist for us, is that because we put so much information about all these buildings over the years, Google rank us according to content, and we rank at the top of Google, and the developers know this. So what in fact happens is that we are able to get almost like first dibs on when a project is launched, when a developer agent is out there. They're saying, the moment we get our sheets with our numbers and our releases of those units, you're our first phone call. Because they know we have the audience like you guys watching who will call us and look for that guidance and that clarity and that open book information on the market, not just pre-construction, but everything.
We had that just happen the other day. It was a VIP broker package that came to me like 2 days before we got the call. So to have that buyer be on the phone with me and ask the question, I was already fully knowledgeable about the product and had the number at my fingertips to contact the sales partner to immediately set up a Zoom presentation with that buyer to get all of their questions answered. And they're considering the project right now. So that's the way we do it.
Perfect. So we could keep going and talking on for hours over this. There's so much information about pre-construction in the South Florida market, up through Miami and Fort Lauderdale and beyond, that it gets to the point that we have hours and hours and blogs and blogs and blogs, and we build this information more and more and more. So if you're seeing this video, bear in mind, don't forget that there are dozens and dozens of articles that myself and Elaine have written about all these different condos through South Florida over the years, and we'll bring it all into the subject and the conversation with you to a level that will make value and be important to you to make the decision that you need to make.
We really want to help you find the right lifestyle and building and line in that building at the price point that works for you. And that's what the David Siddons Group is all about.
Elaine, thank you so much for the video. As always, if you want to be the smartest person in the room, you've got to hang around with the smartest people. And Elaine is a master in her area. Thank you for watching. Again, as always, don't forget to subscribe, like us, follow us, watch our 550 something videos that we have online, and our
call us.
Call us, and we will pick up the phone. That's the thing about us. We are out in the field selling, but we take our phone calls. So you'll get either of us and you will get all the information you need. Thank you again for watching, and look forward to seeing you next time for another fantastic Fort Lauderdale or Miami video.
And I did it again, Fort Lauderdale.